Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our What's in a Brand virtual program being presented in partnership with Lexington County 4-H. Today's presenter, Erika Jones, joins us from Clemson Cooperative Extension, where she works as the Lexington 4-H and Youth Development Agent. I am Jennifer Smith. I am the Youth Services Coordinator for Lexington County Public Library. We ask as you join today that if you have any questions for Erika, that you ask them under the questions tab, as you are all muted when you join. I will moderate these questions and share them with Erika as we have time during our presentation. Today's program is being recorded, and we will be sharing that on the Lexington County's Facebook and YouTube channels. If you have not stopped by your closest branch for the materials for our activity today, you still have time. We have them at all of our locations. You can also, while you're there, pick up a summer reading activity card if you haven't already done that as well, or pick up your prizes. If you are viewing our program today with others in the room, we would really love to hear how many people are watching so that we can have a more accurate count of our attendance. And then also, please note in the chat and as well in the handouts tab that we have a survey. This survey is incredibly important for both of our organizations to keep good records of the types of programs that we are being offered and making sure that we offer programs that reach the entire community. So if you can please fill out that survey when today's program is finished. Again, that link is in the chat, as well as there's something in the handouts, and Erika's presentation is also in the handouts. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Erika now.
Hi, everybody. So today we're going to talk about what's in a brand. So first we're going to talk about some ways that we identify animals, and why it matters. So why is animal identification important, and what does that even mean? Animal identification is a way to track and identify animals. It's important so you're able to tell who is who. If you have a large cow operation, a lot of the cows look the same, so we'll give them an ear tag like this one. The ear tag is to help you identify which animal is which, because if I just go out, if you have 100 brown cows and I say the brown cow is sick, it's going to be really hard to figure out which brown cow is sick. But if we have these tags, and most of the time these tags will have a number on them, so I can say cow 1 is sick. It's a lot easier to figure out which cow needs treatment. Different types of animal identification are branding, registration papers, Coggins papers. Pictures is a really simple way to identify an animal, microchipping, and things like the ear tags, like what y'all have. So there's a couple of different ways that we can brand. You can do a hot brand, which if you see this picture over here, on the left hand side, that would be a piece of metal that was heated up, and then you press it into a cow or a horse or a mule or a donkey. We don't really see hot branding on like pet animals like dogs or rabbits, but a hot iron is pressed onto the shoulder or the flank, and it scars and leaves a brand. Hot branding started with ranchers because there's no fencing in the Midwest. There's not a ton of fencing, and way back in the day there definitely wasn't any fencing. And so if I had cows and Miss Jennifer had cows and they all got mixed up, then it's really hard to tell whose cows are whose. So they started hot branding with these brands mean something, and I'll teach y'all how to read it, but this would be K Barhart Ranch. And so I would brand, if this was my ranch's name, I would brand my cows with this so that I could tell my cows apart from Miss Jennifer's. And you don't want to leave the hot iron on too long or not long enough. If you leave it on too long, it can damage the muscles that are underneath the skin, but if you leave it on not long enough, then the brand won't show up. So normally, this horse has some white hair growing back, but normally no hair will grow back where there's a hot brand done. We can also do something called freeze branding. So a cold iron, which is around -12 to -320 degrees Fahrenheit, that is really cold. Again, it's pressed onto the horse's hip, shoulder, or flank, and it kills the pigment in the hair follicle. So that's why old people get gray hair. There's no pigment left in their hair. So their hair might have been brown one time, but the pigment slowly dies and the hair grows back gray. So this will cause the hair in that area to grow back as white, like this one. So a good question, and if anybody wanted to put it in the chat, who do you think would need the brand held on longer? A dark colored horse or a light colored horse? If we're killing the pigment in the hair, the answer is the dark colored horse. A white horse, their hair would just fall out and not grow back. But this horse would, like a black horse, would even need a freeze brand held on longer than this brown horse, because it's more darker pigment and it's a little bit harder to kill it. Hoof branding is another animal identification. You really don't see this with really any other animals besides horses. It's a little bit harder to brand like a pig hoof or a cow hoof because they're split, they have like toes. But this is really common in places where there's lots of hurricanes. And you can see the 8 and the 0 where their foot's grown out and they've had to rebrand it. But sometimes people will put their phone number on their horse's feet. So they'll do like the area code on the back left, the first 3 on the back right, and then the last 4 digits of their phone number on the front right. So sometimes when there's really bad weather, we can't get our horses out or our animals out, unfortunately, and so it's safer to just let them go. But this way somebody can call you if they find your animal if you put your phone number on their feet. Registration papers is another great way to be able to identify an animal. If you have like an AKC registered dog, then you would get registration papers for your dog. I don't know if you can register a cat, but pretty much any animal can be registered. So this would be registration papers for a horse. Sometimes you'll have a picture down here too of the horse as a baby. So this is a different kind of registration paper, and there's the horse as a foal, but their color does change as they get older on some of them. So white horses are actually born black. So sometimes the picture can be a little bit deceiving because you might be looking at a white horse, but the picture on the paper would be a little black baby horse. Coggins test and photo. So this is specifically to horses. This is a piece of paper that you have to have if you own a horse, and you have to get it redone every year. So every year you get a new set of this paper and a new set of pictures. But pictures are really important for any animal that you own, especially like my dog gets really hairy in the wintertime. So it's a good idea to take pictures of your pets all year round because their color might change a little bit depending on what time of year it is and depending on how much hair they have. Another one that's not in here is tattooing. Tattooing is popular in racehorses. Rabbits get their ears tattooed, and some dogs get their ears tattooed when they're registered. So that's another good animal identification. And then microchipping is actually something that's really popular in our household pets, but it's also becoming popular in larger livestock animals. So this is the microchip, and this is a grain of rice. So you can see that they're really, really, really small. So it doesn't really hurt any animal to get microchipped. It's just like you getting a shot. But they use this on the top right picture, this fancy little scanner. And so if you ever took a stray dog that you found to the vet to see if it was microchipped, the vet uses that same little scanner, and if there is a microchip, it beeps and it pulls up a number, and the number will tell you who the last owner was registered to that pet, the pet's name, and possibly some contact information for the owner. So that's how we identify animals. And now we're going to go into how do you identify a brand, because they're kind of funny looking. And they come in lots of different crazy, these letters can be backwards, upside down, laying down, and it all means something. So as we're learning about branding, you can get your little ear tag if you have it. So this is a cow ear tag. It normally has a piece that goes through the top hole, and it kind of goes on the cow's ear like an earring, just a little bit of a bigger one. And then you also need a Sharpie, and you can draw your own brand. So my last name now is actually Huang, so it starts with an H. So I made my own brand on my little key tag, and this would be read as Rocking H Farm. And I made another example. My H's are laying down on their side, so this would be read as Lazy H Farm. So we'll go on into all the crazy stuff that you can do, and you can design your own brand. So the practice of branding, like cattle, came from the Spanish. So branding came from Spanish, and the first cattle, we actually got them from Spanish. The original brands were made using straight lines or parts of a circle, so like a half circle, because they were the easiest thing to make from iron. As the ability to make branding irons became easier, brands changed to include pictures and cursive letters and all kinds of crazy stuff. So brands used to be a lot more simple than they are now. And then brands are usually made from just capital letters and numbers, but some you can use certain pictures in them too. So we read brands either left to right, just like you would read a book. If they're stacked on top of each other, then you'll read it from the top to the bottom. And if it's like a circle with a letter inside of it, then you would read it from the outside in. So if it was a circle with an A inside, you would read it circle A. When reading more than one figure, you just read them in the order that they show up in. And the ultimate expert on what a brand is called is the owner of the brand. So you actually do own a brand. If my farm, like I said, if my farm was Rocking H Farm, then I would own this brand and nobody else could have it. And brands can be read different ways by different people, depending, like really complex looking ones. But if you're unsure, always ask the owner and they can tell you exactly what it's supposed to be. But the reason why you have to own a brand is so that no two farm has the same one, because then it can get confusing. So running letters are letters written in cursive. Originally, running letters were only letters when the pencil isn't picked up, but so you would have to make one continuous motion. But anytime you see a cursive letter, it would be read as running, then whatever letter. So this would be running A, running B, running M, running N, running R, W, and Y. So if it's cursive and loopy, then it's a running whatever letter it is. So if your last name started with a J and you wanted to be running J Farm, then you could do just a cursive J. So figure would be like the circle is normally used as either a whole or a part of the circle. There's lots of things that you can do with a circle. You can make rocking. So any, like this half circle under my brand is what makes it Rocking H. So you could do a half circle and any letter on the top, and then it would become Rocking M or Rocking Z or whatever you want. If the half circle is on top of the letter, then it becomes a swinging circle. So then you would be swinging M or swinging X. So if it's on the bottom, it's rocking, and if it's on the top, it's swinging. You can also do a quarter moon, so you can use circles to make figures. A half moon, this one with the circle and the line through it is a buckle, and you can make a sun. If you have this little triangle over the top, then you're gonna have a rafter, like a barn rafter, like a roof. And you can also make a mash circle or goose egg. So the only time the circle is read as the number 0 or the letter O is when a brand is made up of numbers only, or with the letter being part of something else. So this wouldn't be a 0, it would be considered a circle because there's no letters or numbers around it. That's why it's Rocking Circle, because it has a half circle underneath it. You can also use straight lines and boxes in your brand. A little dash is read as a bar. A long line is read as a rail. You can use slashes, which would just be a short line facing one way, and you can use a box. So you can do a full box, or you can do a box that's missing one side, and that would be an open box. And then again, if you are reading a brand that has something inside of a shape, then you read it from the outside in. So this would be box and then 3. You could also have an open box X. These aren't super common, but this is called pigpen. So it kind of looks almost like a tic-tac-toe. And then a bench. The bench isn't super common either. Mainly you're going to see boxes or open boxes, but you can use whatever you want in your brand. I like the pigpen. If anybody uses this, hopefully I'll send some pictures because I think that could be a cool brand. You can also use diamonds. Again, you can use the whole diamond or half a diamond, or you can do a diamond and plus a half diamond. Kind of whatever you want. So this one would be read as half diamond S because you're reading it from top to bottom. This is a lot of rules. This is why I gave you the PowerPoint, so that if you want to figure out how to make lazy or crazy or reverse or whatever, you know exactly how to do it. So the position of the letter determines what we call it. So the figure, if it's just the letter R, then we just call it R. If the R is laying down, like my H is, then it becomes lazy R. If the R is upside down, then it becomes crazy R. If it's backwards, we call it reverse R, and if you give it little wings, then it becomes flying R. Let's do some pictures. So laying down, this would be lazy, upside down is crazy, backwards is reverse. Here's those little wings right here. So that's flying R. If it has little feet that are pointing forward, that means it's walking R. If it has little feet that are going behind it, then that's dragging R. And then again, we have our cursive for, oops, sorry guys. We have our cursive for running R. And then here's that bench again. So that would be R bench because you're reading it from top to bottom. And then our little half circle on the bottom means rocking R. And then remember, if we had an R with the half circle on top, then that would be swinging R. So again, we read left to right. So this is a bar. So it would be 2 bar X. This one would read P, lazy Y, because it's laying on its side. This would be diamond / J. You also read top to bottom. So if we wanted to make our 2 bar X brand go up and down, then it would be the 2 first, then the bar, then the X. Same way with this one and this one. And then you also want to make sure that you read from the inside out. So circle A, box X, and diamond O. This would actually be diamond circle, I guess. It could be an O or a 0 or a circle, whatever you wanted it to be. Sometimes if the figure is repeated, one would be right side up and one will be upside down, and they'll be right next to each other. So this would be A up, A down. Normally it's just read as up and down. You can't do it like this though. So the exemptions would mean that you cannot do it this way. So they have to be the same size. You can't put a little tiny one beside it. It would be really hard to read this if it was branded on an animal, and I think that's why they won't let you make it so small. The brand could also be read A, crazy A, because the A is upside down, and an upside down letter means crazy. You can also use numbers. Numbers can be the same as letters where they have little feet, where they're walking or dragging. They can be upside down as long as it's not like a 6 and a 9, because a 6 upside down would just look like a 9. But if you wanted to do like an upside down 4, then you could have crazy 4 ranch. And you can also lay the numbers on their side to make it lazy 7. When it's only numbers, they can be read like any number, or the 2 numbers can be connected. So this would be 2 connected numbers, where the 6 and a 3, this is 2 4s, this is a 96, this one's really cool looking, I like this one. 46, any way you can make the letters connect, or the numbers connect, you can connect them and make some really cool stuff. I like the 56 too. So if you were just looking at this and you didn't know it was supposed to be numbers, it would be kind of confusing, but you can make some really cool designs with them. And then you can also use some pictures, but they're really simple, because again, if you had a really detailed picture, it'd be really hard to read it on an animal. I've seen the star in a lot of brands. I haven't seen the glass before, or the sled. I've seen the tree a bunch of times. This one's really popular. The sun's pretty popular. This one's a duck. I've never seen that one before, and I've never seen the snakes either. But you could make up all kinds of stuff using these. Again, this one with the little line, the circle with the line through it, that one's supposed to be a buckle. But like I said, this tree is probably the most popular one I've ever seen. So this is just a little fact. Brands have to be registered with the Colorado Brand Board. The brand is registered by its design, so what it looks like, rather than what it's called. So there could be 3 brands with the same name, but they all look different. So all the 3 of these brands are box 7, but you could read it left to right, top to bottom, or inside to out. So there could be 3 box 7 farms, but they can't use the same brand. So once one is taken, it's gone forever. So once we have this board left where it's the square and then the 7 on the outside, nobody else could ever have that one. But you could have the same name and just redesign the brand. So if you wanted to practice or test yourself, you could go through and try to figure out what each of these means. So like this one would be Circle D, this one would be Rafter X or Half Diamond X, that would be Running B, this would be Swinging B. So you can go through and try to test yourself and see if you can name all these, and if y'all need the answers, I can send them to Miss Jennifer. And then these are just some examples. So this would be a hot brand because the hair grew back white. It looks like this is a half diamond. This looks like a U, and this looks like maybe it's a 7. This one, I can't remember what the one that looks like the horse is shaved. It's something W, but I'm gonna have to Google what this top thing is because I can't remember, and it wasn't on the PowerPoint, but it's not very common. This would be a Freeze brand on that horse though, and then the black horse with the stuff on its neck, that's a Freeze brand, and this is actually a Mustang. They get really, really special brands on them. It's always on their neck, and I think you read it backwards. That is all I have.
I was wondering, so you said that they have to have the brands registered, and that once one is used, you can't ever use it again. What if the farm is no longer running?
I don't know if you can retire it. I don't know if you can retire it and then go back and use it. That would be something I would have to Google.
Yeah. I was just wondering, what if, somebody retired and they didn't run their farm anymore? Does that name or brand come open again?
Let's see.
And if anyone else has any questions, please type them into the questions tab, and I'll share them with Erika if you have any questions.
This says something about current brand owners. So, you can transfer a brand.
Oh. And so can you look them up to see what's been used before you go design?
Yep. You can go to the Colorado Department of Agriculture. They have a whole section on brands and how there's a like a book that has all of them in it so that you can see what's been used already. You can, it's called the brand book. I think you have to order it.
Yeah.
But you can change or remove a name associated with a brand. Just like if the brand was registered in your name and then you got married and your name changed, you would actually have to go change your name with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then let's see. you can cancel a brand and then reinstate it. So if somebody canceled a brand and didn't transfer it to you, you could pay, it looks like you could pay a $200 reinstatement fee and get it reinstated.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have to pay $100 to transfer a brand too. But these you can do one on one side and one on the other if you can't decide between two. I like to draw mine out on paper and then write it on here.
That is a good suggestion. Plan it out first, and then before you commit to the Sharpie.
Definitely. I drew out one brand that I saw one time, and I don't know if this is technically a legal brand or not because it's got a lot of weird shapes on it, and I don't even begin to know how to read it, but it looked like this, kind of like a check engine light almost.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but it was really neat, and it had like a little tree on the outside of it too. So I've seen the tree one a lot. And then certain farms too, like even at Clemson, we used to do branding on pretty much every livestock animal we had, and it would just be a CU. That was it for Clemson University.
Oh, okay.
So it can be really simple stuff too.
It looks like we do have one question from Chris. They want to know, what is your favorite type of brand?
I personally don't brand my horses, but I think that tattoos are cool. You can tattoo dog ears on the inside. Like I said, show rabbits get tattooed on the inside of their ears, and racehorses get tattooed, but they actually get tattooed if you lift up their lip. They get tattooed on the inside of their lip, and that's how you can identify them. I think that's really neat. Microchipping's probably my favorite because it's very easy. Yeah. And you can, like, I worked at a farm one summer where we microchipped our own horses. Don't do that if you're getting your dog microchipped. Take your dog to the vet and have the vet do it. But we had like 60 horses that needed to get done. So we went around and we microchipped them. It's so easy and it lasts a lifetime. Sometimes the tattoos, especially in the mouth, they fade over time, and so when the horse is older, you can't really read it anymore. But that microchip will last forever.
Yeah.
Probably that one for peace of mind. That one's probably my favorite for peace of mind.
Yeah.
Hot branding's cool. I've never gotten to do that before, but it is really neat, and some people still do it. So it doesn't hurt the animal like people think.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, it burns a little bit, like if you were to burn yourself on the stove, but you have to think, they have a lot more hair than we do. So it's not just like touching your finger where there's no hair, it's like straight skin. They have a lot of hair over it. So really it just makes the hair fall off, but the skin won't grow hair back. And
is their skin a little thicker maybe even?
Their skin's a lot thicker than ours. Yeah. Especially on the areas that we brand them. Like, that's why we don't brand them on their face or something crazy, because the hair is a lot thinner, their skin is a lot thinner, there's no muscle. We brand them on very heavily muscled areas of their body, like the shoulder and the hip. So the likelihood of like damaging underlying structures is way less, not unless you like stuck it on there and held it on there for like 5 minutes. Right. When we hot brand any animal, you literally just go shh, and they pull it off. So you don't just like leave it on them. Right.
I wonder how often the pig pen brand is used on pigs.
So you actually don't brand pigs.
No. Oh, you don't brand pigs.
The way that we identify pigs is a little different. A lot of times you'll see them with one of these, an ear tag, or they do something called ear notching. They will use kind of like I don't know of a better way to describe it than like a hole punch, but it's a triangle, and they'll notch triangles out on their ear, and depending on how many triangles they are and what part of the ear they're on is how you read it. And normally it gives them a number. A lot of people don't I don't know a ton of people that ear notch anymore. Most people just use these because it's way easier to read a number than try to count the little triangles on their ear. But we don't brand pigs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I like the pig pen one though. I think it's cool.
Yeah. It's like, that's got to be used on pigs all the time, right?
Nope. It's crazy how different, even though they're all animals, how we do so much different stuff for them. Like goats, mainly we use an ear tag on a goat. We don't brand them, but they have a lot of hair. It would be really hard to brand a goat. Lots of really thick hair. So.
Well, I don't see any other questions. If you have a question for Erika, now's your chance. Otherwise, we did record today's session. Let me just remind everybody to go to the survey and complete that for us. I'm going to send it out just one more time in the chat so that you can see that. It's also a handout as well as Erika's PowerPoint. So if you have your, I don't have one with me, but if you have your green, Erika's been showing a white ear tag. You should have received a green one from us. If you haven't, I'm sure we still have some at the branches. You can stop by any of our 10 locations and ask at the Youth Services Desk, and they will give you a green brand and a Sharpie marker and then a little keychain to hook it to. We did not, of course, for obvious reasons, give you the little pokey part. We don't want anybody poking that into themselves or their little brothers or sisters. So we didn't give you those. But if you would like to pick up a brand to design, you can do that at any of our 10 locations, and then you can check out the recording of this, or you can just go and look at the PowerPoint and get your ideas to design your own brand, just like Erika showed us. Well, thank you very much, Erika, for taking the time to share all of this really fascinating. This is, I think I could ask you about 10, 20 more questions, but because I think it's really fascinating, all the different ways that you can identify your livestock or animals.
It's crazy the things that they came up with whenever there was no fencing and no way to really contain your animals. You still have to figure out which one's yours.
How do you know which one's mine? I'm going to cut a notch in its ear. That's
yeah. Whatever works. At least we have things like microchips now that make it a lot better for the animal, but back in the day, unfortunately, they did not have that. And I don't know why they don't brand pigs, but they do tattoo them. They do the tags to them, and they did ear notching.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and the goats, you said they do that on the goats?
They do an ear tag on goats.
I've heard goats eat like even plastic. Do they ever eat each other's tags?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. I don't know of any goats that have done that, but they do eat pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So they probably would if they could get a hold of it. I imagine
the other goat.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be too happy about his ear getting pulled on. Goats actually don't have top teeth, so it'd be pretty hard for them to like bite it off. They'd have to like gnaw on it for a while.
And the other goat would probably not want that to happen.
Yeah, please stop.
Oh, somebody, if you have a minute, there is one more question. What about sheep? What do you brand sheep with?
Ear tag sheep.
The ear tags.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine you don't do the other branding because they get so woolly.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I would say you probably wouldn't be able to see it when they're not sheared. So normally you'll see an ear tag on sheep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're pretty easy to replace too. Like if something happened to it, the hole, if like this fell out, it's just like if your earring fell out, the hole would still be there, so you just put a new one on it. And some of these actually come with insecticide on them to keep bugs out of their ears.
Oh.
I like having them in because the bugs don't bite them.
Interesting. Who knew?
Yeah.
All right, and I see that Erika posted in the chat to send pictures of your brand. So when you make your brand, send her some
Yeah, I want to see
pictures.
what I'll come up with.
Well, if there are no, this is the last call. If there are no questions for Erika, we're going to go ahead and end our session today and just remind you that you can stop by the library and pick up your branding kit, and you can make your own brand. And thank you once again for joining us, Erika, and teaching us all about these interesting ways of branding and the designs and what they mean.
Yeah, and the new 4-H year starts September 1st. So if you're interested in learning about more stuff like this, we do have a livestock club in Lexington County. So if animals is something that you're interested in, we'd love to have you join us. We also have a horse club. So if you like animals, but specifically horses, we got a place for you.
And do you have to own an animal, or if you just are interested?
Nope. Just if you're interested. So the nice thing about the animal projects on 4-H is a lot of them, you don't have to have the animal to be a part of it.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us.
You're welcome.
Everybody. Thank you. And we'll see you soon. Let me see if I can remember how to turn off the recording now.